Welcome to Bear and Balance. I'm Jeff Burkus. Other side of the screen, Lester A. Wiltfong Jr. Lester, the Chicago Bears, 8-3. Who would have thought? How'd you take the game?
Yeah, I didn't give a damn if Aaron Rodgers played or not. I didn't care. Whoever is out there, they needed to go down, and that's what the Bears did. They took care of business. I mean, look, how many injuries did the Bears have, for crying out loud? If the Steelers would have won, were there fans that would have been like, who cares? You beat the Bears. They're missing half the defense. I don't think they would have give a damn. They would have just got the dub and went on and stayed in first place.
Yeah, I don't understand why there's a segment of the fan base that seems to need to have these purity tests on wins or something like, well, you didn't play their starting quarterback, therefore you should win by 4 touchdowns. It's like, the gaps are not that big sometimes. And I don't know what the gap is between late career Aaron Rodgers and Mason Rudolph at this point, to be quite honest with you. I've watched a fair number of games with Aaron Rodgers. He's not very good. He's not pushing the ball down the field. Go look at his average depth of target this year. It ain't pretty. So I would have loved to have played him because I think the Bears would have beat him.
Yeah,
right.
This felt like a Rodgers game plan too from the Steelers. A lot of think and dunk, a lot of short stuff, which is what they've done with Rodgers. The few times Mason Rudolph did try and go deep, didn't really work as best for him. So, man, I didn't care. Like I said, get the win. This is their second 4-game winning streak for your favorite team here. Their first place. They're like a game out of the number 1 seed in the NFC. It's Thanksgiving, and we're talking playoffs.
Talking playoffs?
Come on, this is an awesome time to be a Bears fan.
I think it's great. We're going to obviously get into the categories here in a second. We don't talk forward much. This is obviously the recap game. I just wanted to make the statement up at the top that Friday's game, which it's Friday game, guys. If you don't know this, it's on Friday. It's the Black Friday game. If you haven't seen the promo and you weren't geeked about it, go watch the promo because they refer to the Bears as a heavyweight. And and that's exciting.
I love that promo. Yeah.
My wife watched the promo and she goes, "Oh, heavyweight, huh?" And I say, "Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. NFC heavyweight. Of course. Everybody knew that." So Friday's game against Philly, this is a house money game. Okay. Yeah. And what I mean by that, like I was literally at a casino last month and I got a little gift card and it said, $50. And I went up and I said, "Well, are you going to play slots? Or are you going to play table games?" And I said, "Table games." And they handed me $50 worth of chips that had no cash value. I had to go to the table and I had to bet. And if I won the bet, I got real money chips back. And if I lost, I lost, right? And so there's no risk for me to go play these games. This to me is a house money game, right? No one's you're 7-point underdogs. No one's expecting you to win this game. It's on the road against the defending Super Bowl champs. Like at no point in the season has anybody thought, the Bears are going to win this game, right? You've put yourself in a fantastic position at 8-3. You still have to win a couple more games, but to get into the playoffs. But this is not one that's expected. But if you go in there and you win, ooh, buddy, boy, is that's going to change some narratives too. So I think it's a house money game. I just don't think there's a lot of outcomes that you're going to feel really upset about. I think the Bears are playing some good football right now. They're playing competitive football. They're playing fun football. Yes, there's things to clean up. Yes, we'll get into some of those today. But just enjoy your Thanksgiving and then, tuck into some leftovers on Black Friday for a house money game. I'm excited.
Packers Lions on Thanksgiving. That has big playoff ramifications as well. So it's going to be should be a fun few days for Bears fans here.
Cheer for the meteor, right? Cheer for both teams to lose. Exactly. All right, let's get into this thing. Trench tribute. We always start up front, and boy, some guys are playing some pretty good football right now. Where'd you want to start off with?
I'm going to go with left tackle Ozzie Trapillo. I'm not sure how much. I know, with Theo Benedet, it seemed like a game time decision. He must have hurt his quad, I'm guessing, in the first day of practice of the week. He was limited, so he was out there. So I'm guessing it may have been a game time decision. So the fact that Ozzie stepped in, and look, he was a much better in pass pro than he was as a run blocker. That kind of showed up when I watched it. And then, I'm not sure who this is. I think he covers the Commanders, but Ryan Fowler sent this tweet out. I saw this last night. In 41 pass pro snaps for Trapillo. I know I'm ahead of myself in the tweet. This is a bonus tweet of the week here. 41 pass pro snaps, 1 pressure, no sacks. And I'm guessing this is Pro Football Focus, but he had him down for an 88.4 pass pro effectiveness grade. I hate when people cite grades without saying where they got it from. I'm assuming it's Pro Football Focus, but it might be one of the other analytics sites out there. But regardless, Trapillo stepped in at left tackle. Maybe he is your left tackle of the future if he did that against that team.
Yeah, it's a good front. Obviously, they weren't at full strength, but it's still, Pittsburgh, they put a lot of value on their defensive line. It wasn't an easy assignment in that way. I think the protection plan was good from Ben Johnson and the staff. I think that they certainly slid some help his way, quite a bit. But still, he got thrown in there. He's a rookie. He looked like he had a fair number of tools that were pretty positive. And you hope that you can develop the things that maybe he's not quite as good at down the road, right? A lot of rookies need that first full off season to come back strong in their second year. But if you see enough to work with in this game, and maybe you keep playing him, right? Maybe you see, maybe there's a little rotation. Maybe you want to get some tape on Ozzie Trapillo, right? Maybe they feel like they're at that point where they want to be able to do that. I think you got to determine if this is a guy that you want to count on next year, either as your left tackle, or maybe you want to make him your right tackle and make that switch from Darnell Wright from right to left. Or, is he a swing guy that is a cheap contract, second round contract guy that's going to be on your roster, right? I think that these next few games are going to probably be pretty important for Ozzie Trapillo to make that next decision point for this coaching staff on where they see him. Obviously, they liked him when they drafted him.
Yeah.
But they need some real evidence here on how they're going to be able to use him. Overall, a lot of this rookie class not looking too shabby, right?
Pretty good so far.
Pretty decent. I sent you a text and I said, boy, should we put Brisker in for the Trench tribute with that game capping play there with the jumping up, just elevating? How many defensive linemen can get that kind of height? It's to block a pass. My old coach used to call it the paper test. I'm going to put a piece of paper below your feet and see if I can slide it out when you jump, right? A lot of defensive linemen don't have ups like that, but nice call by Dennis Allen there to put Brisker on the blitz. He realized quick that he might be better served to just try to get his hand on the ball and jump up, and got the tip and into the game. It's not my Trench tribute, but I thought it would be funny if we at least talked about Brisker in this space. I'm going to go with the easy one. I'm going to go with Montez Sweat. He's been on a roll here. He got 2 sacks. Probably should have had a third. Had him in the grasp. Mason Rudolph's a little bigger than you might think he is. They talked about that on the broadcast. He's maybe a little harder to bring down than you might think. But, Montez is starting to turn it on. And I think a lot of people like to talk about Montez Sweat and say that he's not TJ Watt. Right. The guy on the other side of the field. He's not Micah Parsons. He's not, he's not Myles Garrett. Yeah, that's true. Right. But once you get past that tier, I really think Montez Sweat is right in that next tier. Right. I think that he's kind of that next level below those elite guys. He's making very good money. And I think a lot of people get really hung up on that factor. And I get it. Like, you want to be able to find value on your roster, but he's a good football player. And if you give him time to hunt, he's going to put up some stats, right? So this was good for him. I was happy to see him start to collect some of those sacks and maybe quiet down that noise.
Yeah, that was a good game from him. I had him written down too. I thought he had a really good game. Obviously, he is active, right? When he's playing good, I think ultimately he's playing a little too many reps. I still like to see some of these defensive ends cut the reps down a little bit. They do seem like they get a little fatigued towards the end of games. And, sometimes the game script is like that where they're on the field a lot. In this game against Steelers, they had some long drives there. So I think that maybe that if Deo Dengbo is supposed to be that guy, right, to give you some extra reps, and it didn't work out. Then he got hurt. But yeah, I think Sweat is a lot of times fans look at how much they make, and they have these expectations based on price tag, which I get it. It's part of it. You're supposed to produce or making that kind of money, but he is not in that Myles Garrett tier. He is a tier below those top echelon pass rushers. I think he does some other stuff for you besides just rush the passer. He's pretty good against the run. He sets the edge pretty good. That's some things that are valued, especially in this Dennis Allen scheme. And real quick, going back to your Jacon Brisker, he blitzed both those final 2 plays. The first one he got close, and the second one, he said he was smart. He realized, I'm not getting there. Let's wait. Let's time it up. Boom, jump up there and make that swat.
Yep, he's been really good this year.
He
Right,
has
been pretty reliable, and the whole thing about Brisker over the years is that he's chatty, right?
Yeah.
He's the guy that's a talker, and a lot of Bears fans don't like that if you're not winning. But once you're winning, they like it,
They're
right?
winning,
So it's
yeah.
interesting to see the narrative flip a little bit on Jaquan Brisker as well. But gotta love making plays like that. Fantastic, love it. Let's get into our sweet tweets portion of the show. You're going to start us off with a regular contributor here on
Potsy. Yeah, I've had Potsy in here a couple times. He's, the social media, the Bears fans thinks he's a little negative. He does. I think he's kind of poking the bear sometimes when he's sending tweets out. But Potsy sent out a fun fact: the Bears are 4-3 when allowing 23 or more points under Ben Johnson this season, including 4-1 since week 3. They were, this is ridiculous, 6-82. That's a .068 winning percentage in that category from 2014 to 2024 under various other coaches. And 2014, just so you know, that was Mark Trestman's second year. So since the second year and final year of Mark Trestman through Flus, 6 wins, 82 losses when allowing 23 or more points. Definitely not that's not a Lovie Smith set. Lovie Smith had a pretty good defense in his era. But yeah, it's been brutal. It's been brutal. You haven't had the offense kind of, pick up the slack, and Ben Johnson, he's got the offense to pick up the slack.
Yeah, it's, these aren't your uncle's Bears, right? Like, these aren't your daddy's Bears, whatever the saying is. It's a different regime, right? This is a different era. Ben Johnson's an offensive mind. They've invested a lot in the offensive side of the football. They've been really injured on the defensive side of the football. So you're going to get more of those opportunities to have wins when you give up more points than 23 there. None of that surprises me. As someone who has looked at these records a lot lately and has looked at how much things are changing over here. So it's an interesting, fast change. This is how fast things can change in the NFL, because last year this was bad. Last year this offense was non-functional, and now it's really humming, right? Like, it's doing really well. And I know a lot of Bears fans want it to be even better, and I think that we believe it can be better, but it's also one of the best in the league when you compare it against the rest of the league. So it's you think that the arrow's pointing up here, right? And these things usually only improve when you get more time on task. So it's exciting stuff. It's a very different era of football that we are embarking on, and it's very exciting to see that it's working.
I've always been an offensive guy. I've always
me too.
And so, I love seeing the offense. I like run ball, old school. I like defense. Yeah, It's fine, but I like offense, man. I want to see points on the score.
I always identified more on the offensive side of the ball.
Yeah.
All right. Mine is from Matt Harmon. He's at Matt Harmon. And he said, if I were a Bears fan, he's a big wide receiver guy, but he said, I'd be super encouraged by the record, recent performance, and some of the offensive metrics, etc., because it's all coming, even though it doesn't feel like you ever get a consistently excellent performance wire to wire from any of the skill position guys in a given week, which we talk about it every week here. And we certainly feel the same way. He continues and says, given how many of those guys are young players, I'm relatively confident that they find that steadiness at some point late in the season or next season. Either way, it's all very positive right now. So Matt Harmon covers the league. He's a guy that is really good with wide receiver stuff.
Reception perception. He's
reception
that guy,
perception
right?
is his thing.
He's, I like his stuff.
The preeminent expert, I think, he's the guy to go to for wide receiver stuff. It's just an example of another national guy that's putting out stuff that says, I really like what I'm seeing here. Nate Tice had an article this last week that was excellent, that really broke down what's happening, how it's happening, why some of these numbers that you might be worried about, you shouldn't be worried about, and why some of these numbers that maybe you should be excited about, you should be really excited about. And he did a very nice job of breaking it down from a film perspective, breaking it down from a football perspective. And so the point is not specifically that Matt Harmon likes the Bears or anything like that. It's that there is these smart football guys that are continually coming out and saying, hey, what Ben Johnson and the Bears are doing here is pretty cool. It's pretty good stuff. And you have to think it's only going to get better again with that time on task. So I think we have been pretty consistent in this, but here's another voice that says, please be encouraged by what you're seeing here.
Yeah, the offense has been up and down, right? I mean, it hasn't really been clicking, but then they showed that stat in the game yesterday that the Bears had the best offense the previous 3 weeks, the top offense in the league. And as fans were watching it in the social media, some of the chats were in, it's like, oh my God, another missed pass, and oh my God, a drop here, and a lot of complaints about the offense. But then at the end of the day, you look up and you're like, oh, they just put a bunch of points up, they put a bunch of yards up. Oh, they're a top 10 offense. Oh, in the last 3 weeks, they've been the best offense in the game. It's Ben Johnson was asked after the game. He was asked the question more Caleb, kind of how he did, because it was a up and down game for him. But you look at the stats, you're like, that's not bad. And he talked about 31 points in offense. That's always a good thing when you're over 30. Head coach Ben Johnson said. So yeah, I mean, it's like when it clicks, this could be so much better. You look at Ben Johnson's first year as a full-time play caller in Detroit. That offense there was up and down. I mean, they had some moments where it got pretty bad, and as the year went on, they got better. That was Jared Goff, a very experienced quarterback, right? So best is yet to come with this offense.
Yeah, I think you got to really give Caleb a lot of credit. We'll get into Caleb here in a minute, of course, but you got to give Caleb a lot of credit. You got to give the offensive line a lot of credit. You got to give, the weapons a lot of credit. There's a lot of guys that are making their individual progress in the system. It's the first year of the system for everybody, right? It's not like Ben brought, besides Jonah Jackson, right? It's not like he brought a bunch of guys over with him from Detroit, right? And again, it's not a carbon copy because Caleb isn't Jared Goff. There's different things that they do, but there's still a lot of the same, infrastructure there that he still wants to put in. So again, it looks a lot different than it did week 1. And it's going to look different in week 17, week 18, as we move forward here. So let's just see where this goes. Let's enjoy it. This is, again, this is the dawn of the new era. Hopefully everybody was reading our stuff in the preseason. So, all right, let's move on. Caught up in a numbers game. What stat did you bring for us today?
So my number's 1 this week, right? That is
that number.
That is how often Caleb Williams was hit against the Steelers. That's it was a terrible hit if he took the sack in the end zone. It gave him a sack, strip sack, fumble, touchdown. But yeah, he was only hit once in the entire game. Last week against the Vikings, they pressured him on 2/3 of his pass plays, right? Steelers only got to him 18% of his dropbacks. The ball was coming out quick. You can kind of see they made a point of that. And I think I talked about it, I think it might have been our show, maybe another show I was on last week. I think having the blitz happy Vikings last week helped them kind of mold their game plan similarly to what they did then. And they realized, okay, let's get the ball a little quicker out against the Steelers, because the Steelers, they don't blitz as much as the Vikes, but they blitz a lot. So I think you saw more quick passing game. I saw Danny Parkins tweeted out earlier. I saw it. I wanted to grab it. I forgot, but his numbers from the pocket were phenomenal in this game. And they've been pretty phenomenal this entire season, right? The narrative of, he can't play from the pocket. Go look at his friggin' numbers from the pocket. They're pretty dang good right from the pocket. If he could just sit in the pocket all day and do what he had to do, that's fine. But he gives you that extra ability. He can scramble. He can make plays with his feet. So one hit. And I know this, if you scroll social media, Steeler fans are pretty pissed off that the blitz happy TJ Watt led, Nick Herbig Steelers only got to him one quarterback hit. They're pretty pissed off about this, about their game plan.
I understand that on Twitter, particularly, it's a cesspool, and we're on it because we need to promote our stuff and have these conversations with some of these other people, the Matt Harmons of the world, right? This is how you kind of interact with a lot of these people. And I understand that Bears fans have a really good history or bad history or whatever of getting into it with other fan bases and amplifying some of the probably the worst voices of other fan bases.
Yeah.
But it just seems like every week I'm like, man, what are these clowns talking about on the other side of this game? Like it just like seems like some of the worst fandom that we're interacting with. But yeah, some of the garbage that was coming out of the Pittsburgh fans, it's like, guys, what are you doing here? Like, what are you talking about? Maybe it's just because you only play the Bears every 4 years, but it's like, I don't know. I just think I just have like a basic, like, you're in the AFC.
Yeah.
Like, I watch your games. I understand a little bit of what's happening in the AFC, but I'm not like a total expert in the AFC North football. Yeah. Maybe you should take that same approach with what's happening in Chicago and Green Bay and Detroit, right? Like maybe just like pump the brakes and not pretend like what this Bears team is all about, because how could you, right? You're not going to spend a lot of energy on this. But anyway, my number is, I'm just going to go with a lot of numbers because I have been doing this random thing. And I sent you a text after I crunched a bunch of numbers and I was like, is this interesting? And you're like, I find it interesting. I'm like, that's not really answering the question, right? Like, as more like, do you think other people will find this interesting? I was trying to figure out like, well, how many winning streaks have we really experienced? And it kind of started with this idea, like, well, how often have we got to talk about a winning streak on this show, right? And then, you let off the show. This is the second 4-game winning streak that the Bears have been on this year. And so I went back and I just went through every single season and I looked up.
Now, real quick, though, winning streak, we're talking at least 3 or more. Games. Yeah,
at least
because of course, Major League, they set that precedence. It's got to be 3. Yeah,
it's got to be 3. Got to be 3 to be a winning streak. Okay, yeah. So I went back and I just got some numbers that you guys might find interesting. So Bears have been around 106 years. This is year 106, I think. There have been 108 winning streaks in the Chicago Bears history. So that's about 1 a year, and the Bears are on number 2. There have been 32 seasons where there hasn't been a winning streak. And a lot of those have happened recently. So I'm going to write all this up at some point because I do find it kind of interesting. The longest winning streak in team history is 13. That happened like all the way back in 1934. They actually did not win the championship that year. Kind of unfortunate. And I know people are going to ask, well, what about losing streaks? Probably been more losing streaks than there have been winning streaks. Right? There have been 65 losing streaks in the history of the Chicago Bears franchise. 10 is the longest losing streak. That's happened twice. Both under Matt Eberflus.
I knew you were going to Flus. Yeah.
So, and again, some of those losses on the second 10-game losing streak, he was not actually there, but he started it. He kind of gets credit in my mind for the crappiness that was, when you walk away from that. I am hanging him on him. So, you're talking about a 10-game losing streak last year, a 10-game losing streak a couple years before that. Matt Eberflus only had 1 winning streak. It was 3 games, and it was right that like the game that broke it was the Washington game, the Fail Mary, and that led into the losing streak. So, the Flus era, and then you come over to Ben Johnson, and he's already put up 2 4-game winning streaks, right? Wow. And so if you go to 4 games, if that's your metric, and not the 3-game winning streak, there have been 68 4-game winning streaks. And again, Ben already has 2 of them. He's already ahead of Patty Driscoll, Jim Dooley, and if you don't know these names, that's fine because you're probably not into Bears history like I am. Abe Gibron, Jack Pardee, Mark Trestman, John Fox, who had 0, and Matt Eberflus. All those other coaches had 1 except for Fox, who had 0. So he's already like moving up the ranks, right? And our guy Bill Zimmerman put out there, he had a terrible AI image. I need to give Bill crap for using an AI generator. Like, let's not burn down the rainforest for crappy AI images. But like, he put out this AI image of Mount Rushmore, and he was like, Ben Johnson already the 4th best coach on the Chicago Bears. Of course, Jack and I are in the comments going back and forth about who is the fourth. Is it Ralph Jones? Yeah, we're going back and forth. And then it's like, okay, it's probably Ralph Jones. Here's what Ben Johnson needs to do to kind of like, let's set some standards here. Like what does he need to do? But like, here's just like an interesting way that in one season, he's already rising above some of these, terrible coaches that were, that didn't last very long because they couldn't get winning going. And again, this is largely with the same roster that Eberflus had last year. And it was the narrative is already flipped. So to me, these winning streaks, maybe people don't care about that. Oh, who cares? You're making something out of nothing. But yeah, who cares when the wins come? It's schedule, blah, blah, blah. There's something about the good feeling of a winning streak and a coach that can keep it going.
I think it's even more so in this day and age because everything's social media. There's so much other media places. So I think your winning streaks are more elevated, right? So we already talked about the narratives changing. This is how you change the narrative of your franchise. I mean, the Bears aren't going to be considered, a good team until this is consistent. And now here we are, 2 4-game win streaks. That's a lot of good juju being heaped on the franchise 2 different times. 8-3. We talk about it. Thanksgiving is coming up and they're in the playoff mix. They control their own destiny for the playoffs, which is ridiculous to even think about. But yeah, you need these winning streaks. These winning streaks are kind of what makes your team. And, a couple of years ago, we kind of heard how during the tank season, right? Oh, you've got to learn to win, That's not the roster you learn to win with. This is the roster you learn to win with. One do you think is pretty damn good, right? They're learning to win right now. I wasn't expecting 8-3 at this point in the season. I thought this would be like a up and down year, some silly wins, silly losses, kind of go back and forth. But they're pulling these games out. They believe. All these comeback wins. This will pay dividends with this roster, with this culture they're creating here. For years going forward.
Well, a lot of people that are familiar with history. Obviously, Mike Ditka had a very successful run. And if you go back to the early Ditka era, a lot of people were defined as like, hey, he was a hard ass and he's trying to get these bums out of here, right? Like that was like, I mean, he shows up, he's like, hey, a lot of you guys aren't going to be playing on this roster next year, right? That was the like, Mike Ditka isn't this guy kind of a badass and coming in and like laying down the law. And I think that there's maybe a little bit of an expectation every time you get a regime shift, because generally you're taking over a crappy team. They're like, okay, you're going to get your guys in. You're going to like get the dead weight out of here. You're and sure, almost certainly by film, some of those guys were cut. Some of those guys weren't asked back. Like those decisions were made. But there's guys, if they're on this roster, they're going to get coached up. And they're going to be put in a position to succeed. And that is like, I mean, that's Ben Johnson, that's Dennis Allen, and that's all of these coordinators up and down. There are not a lot of like coordinators that I think are going to turn over here. I feel like Ben's got a lot of really good people on his staff that look like they're making an impact at every position group, right? Mm-hmm. I don't know much about the linebackers coach. Right. I don't know his
old school. He's old school.
Old school. Been around the league forever. Right. But here he's got linebacker 4, 5, 6, 7, like stepping up and playing. Right. Like that's really impressive. And so if you're getting production from not only 1 through 53, but now you're down to like 63, 68, like you're down to, signing guys back to your practice squad that you maybe brought into camp, or other players like, from your past, like CJ Gardner-Johnson, right? And being able to come in and weave them into what you're working with. Like, I think that all of that goes into being able to maintain consistency, and that's reflected in these winning streaks. I think it's really impressive. I think it's really impressive for a first-year coach to already have 2 4-game winning streaks on his resume and have this team at 8-3.
Ben talked about why a big reason he came to Chicago is obviously Caleb, right? He wanted to come and coach Caleb, but he also said this was not a 5-win team. He looked at this roster, him and his staff. They looked at what they had in Chicago. He's like, this team should not have been as bad as it was last year. That's something they were confident they would turn around, and we're kind of seeing it happen. I mean, DeMarco Jackson is putting up numbers on this team. Guys that kind of you don't expect much from, they're stepping in. And they're making impacts. You talked about the rookie class this year. They've all had, they've had moments, and yeah, you got a couple guys that haven't really done much, but no 7-round class, hits everywhere. But yeah, I mean, this has been a very young team, and they're learning how to win together, and that's all you can ask for.
Exciting stuff. All right, let's hit Caleb's corner here. He was 19 of 35 for 239 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. He took 1 sack, which you are going to spend some time on this week on Sack Watch and just kill Caleb for, because that was
terrible,
bad Caleb sack.
Yeah.
Obviously, he lost the fumble in that. It was recovered in the end zone for a touchdown. Probably the worst play he's had all year. I mean, I just can't even think about anything that's close to that. It reminds me of that sack last year that he took that was like 20-yard loss or whatever that was.
Terrible, yeah.
It was a unforgivable bad play, right? You talked about he took 1 hit. Well, he earned that hit. Like that was his. Like no one else deserves any sort of blame for that. That was his doing there. Needed to just get it out, survive another day. Came after 2 penalties that backed him up. So put him in, the shadow of the end zone. Could have been the game, right? Could have been the difference of the game. Like, the Bears outplayed the Steelers, I think, in this game, maybe not convincingly, but like pretty well, pretty solidly here. And that 7 points really kept the Steelers close. So that's a really bad mistake. The 3 touchdown passes, those drives were great, right? So you saw kind of this dichotomy of like, the one terrible play, you had some misfires, some drives that couldn't get going because Caleb couldn't get on the same page as some of his receivers. Again, 19 and 35, that completion percentage is pretty low. And then you had these drives where it's like, whoa,
yeah,
who is this guy, right? But chipped in 4 carries for 21 yards. He needs to make sure he gets out of bounds and doesn't just start jogging so he doesn't take any cheap hits like that, because he can get hurt. So carry it through the play. A little criticism there, but again, 104 passer rating. Like overall, the numbers were good. This is the weird thing, in my opinion, about this performance was this was worse than his stat line when I went back and watched. Whereas last week, I thought he played better than his stat line indicated. So maybe that evens out over these 2 games. But there's still, I think, maybe a little bit more to clean up than a lot of us would feel comfortable with or would have wanted to see at this point. But I mean, those 3 touchdown drives were more than enough.
He sailed a few. He missed a few crossers. I know he missed Rome on 1. He missed Burden on 1. He's still missing a few things. Maybe he's trying to overthrow a few things, trying to get over the top, and he just puts a little too much on it, and it kind of gets away and sails on him a little bit. And it's gonna again, it's taking time here, but to me, the high is far away the lows, right, with this season with Caleb. And I dug up that Danny Parkins tweet. Again, I don't know where he got these numbers. I'm assuming it's Pro Football Focus. Most guys, when they pull these, these numbers that are based on certain situations, are Pro Football Focus. From the pocket against Pittsburgh, 17 to 29, 232 yards, all 3 touchdowns, passer rating 118.8. From the pocket this whole season, 210 yards a game, 14 touchdowns, 3 picks, 100.2 rating, and the pressure percentage is 23.2, which is the 4th lowest. So when he has the time to sit in the pocket and deliver the ball, he's doing that. He's not leaving pockets for the hell of it. This is the narrative. Really, right? This is what you hear, like fans who are like Rick Randos who don't really watch the Bears. Oh, he's still trying to do too much. He's leaving clean pockets. Everyone leaves a clean pocket every now and again. You see a ghost, you feel something that's not really there. You leave a little earlier than you should. Every quarterback does this, but for some reason, Caleb does it in their minds all the time. So very good from the pocket. When it starts clicking, when everything starts hitting, when these drops don't happen, when he stops sailing some of these passes, just where this could go. Oh my God.
I wanted to correct myself. I said 3 touchdown drives. Obviously, it was 4 touchdown drives. I meant 3 touchdown drives that ended with him throwing a touchdown. That's what I meant.
Yeah.
And then that's what I was saying a few weeks ago. That again, I think we brought it up, last week too. But I was saying once the scramble to throw plays start paying off, like it's really going to change the narrative, and it did. Like the time to throw stuff really got changed over since I made that tweet. But that felt like hey, he's doing these things that he was great at in college. And he was, I think, actually probably pretty good last year about creating and throwing.
Yeah.
And they just weren't converting. There was a lot of drops, and there's some people that crunched the numbers and showed that out to be true. And it was like, well, okay, if that's a slice of his game that hasn't been positive, he hasn't been able to make teams pay for that yet, which I think he'll get there. And his numbers overall look like this. That means that the in the pocket stuff is good. Like, like it's that and that's my point is like, well, once those should become either gains. I mean, they're not losses, right? Like when you evade a sack, you're taking away a negative. So that's good. But even if he's just scrambling for 5 yards or he's dumping it off for, positive gains, those are positive plays. But you feel like there's going to be some broken coverage, some chunk plays, some explosives that happen out of that. And once that starts happening with that little slice, and you add that to what's already really solid with the rest of the pie, like that's just going to take those numbers and this game to another level, right? There's enough detail work that I think, again, more time on task, it's going to get there. Hopefully it gets there soon, right? Hopefully we see a click here against Philly. Hopefully we see it against Green Bay, right? Like this is the money time. Like, you've won these games, but we can take down some, divisional premier opponents, rivalry opponents, and really, juice this thing up. That may come from a dominant offensive performance, and it's close. It's there.
Close. Right? That's how it feels, right? Like
that's how it feels.
Yeah, it feels close.
Feels close.
Really close. Real close.
All right, we're gonna take a break, but before we do, let's talk about our merch. I've got my shirt on.
Yes. I got the hat.
Mug.
The mug.
We got
my mug's over there. Yeah.
We got a lot of stuff here. And in honor of number 18, we're doing a little holiday promotion. Bears play on Black Friday. We've got a little Black Friday deal. Cyber Monday. I don't care when you buy it. We've got an active promotion. Yeah. It's 18% off all our merch. Use promo code holiday18. That's simple it. Super simple. You get 18% off the merch. It's good stuff. We've gotten some good feedback. People like their stuff. People like the bourbon glass. That's probably our biggest seller. We're pushing that. But people are liking the merch. Check it out. See if there's something that you like for yourself. Buy yourself a gift, holiday
Treat
gift.
yourself, exactly.
Or for your whole family, right?
Yes.
Who wouldn't want a Bear and Balance shirt? Who wouldn't want, a coffee mug with Bill screaming at him?
Yeah.
Like we should get a little drawing of Bill screaming that. That would definitely be a top seller if we could do that.
No AI though. We got to find an artist.
No AI. No, we need to like actual illustrator. So anyway, go check us out at the store. We've got links everywhere. And Holiday 18, help us out, help you out, do your Christmas shopping, get it done now.
Yeah.
Right. Just, the whole, it's a crowd pleaser. Whole family would be happy.
I like it.
All right. Quick break. Other side of this, 3 Bears. All right, Lester, hot bowl of porridge, cold bowl of porridge, and just right where you want to go.
I got a couple people I want to mention, but I'm going to go with one. I'll let you go yours. And if we don't get to everyone, we'll circle back. But okay, I'm going to go Luke Newman, another rookie here, right? I mean, with Ozzie getting the start at left tackle, I was curious. Okay, who's going to be Ben's OL6, right? Because he likes to play a 6 lineman, occasionally line him up in the backfield, and it was Luke Newman. He's in there on a lead draw, a lead fullback draw. He looked good too. He kind of shuffles it aside, goes up the hole, makes his block. We kind of saw him, playing some stuff in fullback. And then, of course, Jonah Jackson gets an injury. I think it was something to his eye. Luke Newman comes in the game to play a little right guard. He's your first interior guy off the bench as a rookie. So I mean, look, again, we talk about this rookie class. Here's a guy that you're right away. You trust in those moments. You trust as your 6 lineman. You're moving him around, putting him in motion. I think that was pretty cool to see Luke Newman getting that opportunity.
Yeah, I love it. Great pick. I know when he was taken, obviously late offensive lineman, interior offensive lineman. You're like, Yeah, I mean, we've seen this story before.
Doug
It's a guy that
Kramer, yeah.
could be a guy, that sticks on the
Tyree
roster.
Carter, yeah. There's
Right.
been a few misses in the years.
You say, yeah, maybe he can play. And then he gets in there and you're like, yeah, maybe he can go.
Yeah.
And so it's nice to see some reps, and it's nice to see. I like the idea of being deliberate and thoughtful about trying to get a lot of players involved, right?
Yeah.
As long as it's not, just tokenism and just like, hey, let's throw this big guy a pass and let's see, there's it can get a little bit too much, but like keeping guys engaged and getting them reps and having them be mentally part of the game plan, because if they got to step up and fill in, make a spot start or fill in for a couple series like, Newman had to do here, filled in for a few plays here, they're more ready, right? They're more into the game flow. They're not coming in completely cold. They know that they've got a package of plays that they might be called upon to get in here. So I kind of like how Ben uses that sixth offensive lineman anyway. And I think it's paying dividends. I mean, Ozzie Trapillo, it wasn't his first game action. He had been in there as the sixth offensive lineman throughout, the first part of the year. And so now he's coming in and making a start over Benedette. And he probably benefited from getting into those professional games, and things were probably a little bit easier to make that start. So I like how Ben utilizes his roster and gets guys snaps, gets guys targets, in the receiver room and all that. So love it. Good pick from you. I actually was going to go Dennis Allen.
Okay.
Because I get it. The Bears, it's not like they pitch a shutout. But if you were at all on the website, social media, out at your grocery store wearing a Bears shirt, I don't know, anywhere, and Bears were talking, people were giving this game up. They don't have a chance. Do you see that? Like, Edmonds is out. Edwards is out. Gordon's not back yet. Jalen's not back yet. They can't win this game. They don't have any defensive players. Right. And the jokes of like, how many people are going to go play linebacker that are on Twitter. Right. Yeah. Like it. And there's, I don't like, you can win any given game. You can lose any given game. Like, I think you need to like watch it play out. That's just not my style to give up on a game, but give some credit to Dennis Allen and his staff for getting these guys ready to go. And were those linebackers amazing? Are they going to make a Pro Bowl? No, but like they stepped up and they played. DeMarco Jackson having the green dot and making the play calls and making plays, like awesome, right? Ogbong Bamiga, like this is a special teamer, and he's having legitimate snaps and got in on a ton of tackles. Like this is what you want to see. That's what we're talking about. That 1 to 53, that 1 to 60, 62, 63, 65, whatever it is that they've had to like pull in, onto the active roster at this point. You got these guys playing, and that's what a good coaching staff can do, is they can get by with, in their game plan, if needed, with guys down the line a little bit here. And I'm just really impressed with what Dennis Allen was able to do with a defense that's been super beat up this year.
They got kind of exposed early in the game. The Steelers seemed like they really wanted to test them on the edges. They were making those linebackers run and chase. And as the game going on, I'm sure at halftime they had to talk about how they're going to stop some of that stuff. And you kind of saw it. I'm glad you mentioned DeMarco Jackson and Eamon Ogbong Bamiga. Man, I can't say nobody's name. So, but yeah, I want to make sure we mention those two. Between them, 29 tackles between them. So that was awesome. Fantastic, those two guys. And with Amon, he wasn't even supposed to start. He only got in because Ruben Hippolyte got hurt. He got obliterated by the tight end.
He got run over.
Oh, God. So with
Ogbong Bamiga.
I'm really looking at the damn name and I can't even say it. So when he got in the game, 14 tackles. So yeah, I'm glad you mentioned those two guys, and they were scraping. I think it was Brian Baldinger had a nice little video clip on Twitter today where he kind of was breaking down some of their plays where they were kind of scraping and, working through the trash, they call it, and making plays, seeing hole, hitting hole, making an impact. And that's what those guys did. And DeMarco Jackson got himself a game ball for his first performance.
He sure did. And I got to tell you, don't know what the Steelers were thinking of not attacking the middle of the field. Like I thought with there 3 tight ends, those giant tight ends mismatch against backup linebackers, they were just going to eat over the middle of the field, and they didn't. So whatever down, and I'm not a defensive expert, so somebody that really understands coverage and how defenses play, maybe he made a concerted effort to try to like close that down, because Dennis Allen probably thought the same thing. But just really impressive because those tight ends didn't do much damage. No. Like there was not a lot of damage done from that group, who's a very talented group. They got 3 guys that can start anywhere. All right, let's flip it around. Cold Bull Porch.
I'm going to go running back DeAndre Swift.
Yep.
Not his best game this week. 8 carries, 15 yards, just a 1.9 average. And I think part of it may have been a little game flow, whereas they got towards the end there and they realized, well, let's go more Monungai, who had 12 carries to his 8. And I think it's kind of how it kind of went. I think if he would have had a few more touches, he may have picked up or maybe broke one, which we've seen him do. But also Pittsburgh, man, they really were trying to sell out. They wanted to make sure they had a lot of guys in the box. Want to make sure they stopped the run, because the Bears had been the number 2 running game in the entire league up to that point. So they did a good job. And look, by them doing that, it kind of gave some open throwing lanes for Caleb. So again, the offense is coming around. They're kind of playing up each other, complementing each other. And real quick, back to that lead draw. I love the way the lead draw looks, just the aesthetics of it. I love that play. It's just a nice play to see. Now I want to see a sprint draw. I love the sprint draw too. I like just the way it looks and the X's and O's. I think it's beautiful. So, but yeah, I mean, Swift, down game for him, which has been rare this year. So we got to call it out when we see it.
Oh, and you didn't even mention the fumble loss, which
I have
a hard time understanding what happened there, like, because to me you can't see anything, and so if the refs didn't see him fumble and look like progress was stopped,
they didn't blow the whistle.
That to me seems very odd that they would have just like, well, we're just going to let this one go, and we didn't see anything. Like, how many plays have you in your career where like you just rip the ball away after the play was over and you like stand up and like, hey, I got the, and you guys, and it's like, no, like, stop, that didn't happen. Like, let's move on. Like, that felt like one of those plays. And they just, it seemed like the refs just kind of went with it. Like, cause there was a lot of like looking around at each other. Like, did you see anything? And normally they just like, no, that was down. And then they make the replay, see if there was like an obvious out, but they called it a fumble on the field, and then you couldn't make an obvious call that it wasn't, because there was nothing conclusive, or at least that's how I saw it, interpreted it. So that was an unfortunate fumble loss, but Bears have been really good about taking care of the ball this year, and obviously taking it away. So it was like, oh boy, starting to feel bad about the feeling here that they've given it away twice and now they're behind. And generally that's what happens when you those things start to stack when you're trying to come from behind. But they stop the blood flow there. Those were the only turnovers, and they were able to turn that around. All right, for me, Cold Bull goes to a very specific thing, and that is Caleb to Rome. 3 of 9 for 53 yards on that connection. That is, I want that to be 8 of 9 for 120 and a touchdown, right? Like, I mean, it's there, and whatever's happening between whatever happened in this game anyway, just wasn't working. And, Rome has had a number of catchable balls that's been his way. Some of them are term drops. Some of them are just balls he's got to come down with. Caleb hasn't been perfect with his placement to a lot of guys. And in this game particularly, it was to Rome, right? So I don't know what happened here. I don't know if it was type of route. I don't know if Caleb just wasn't maybe seeing him quite as well as he normally does, because normally this is the best connection on the team. Burden might be coming up on his heels, but this if they're going to win some real games, like if they're going to win like some, if they're going to beat Green Bay, if they're going to beat the Eagles, like, right, these have to happen. He's got to be, again, like 8 for 9, 9 for 11, or what, he's got to have some really solid numbers when he's throwing to Rome, because this is where these chunk yards come in, and both of them just got to do a better job.
Yeah, I think there was one he sailed. I think there was one he kind of threw behind him. There was one where Rome jumped on the sideline, had a fantastic catch, couldn't get 2 feet in. You think maybe a little better throw there. He has a chance to do it. Yeah, I mean this was not the best connection between those two this week, but like I said, previous weeks they've been pretty good. So it happens. These things come up here.
Let's do the just right. Where you want to go?
I'm going to go with CJ Gardner-Johnson. Not for anything he did on the field.
But I want to be in that right place at the right time, huh?
I want to shout him out for when Caleb got hit. And it was a legal hit. There was nothing wrong with that hit. I had no problem in the moment. I had no problem on the replay. I'm like, hey, that's just happened. Caleb was kind of on the sideline. It is what it is. But still, that said, you're on the Bears sideline. You hit our quarterback. Someone's got to step up. And it just so happened it was the newcomer, CJ Gardner-Johnson, got in his face. Let him know about it, right? And those kind of things happen. And you love that when your teammate does that. It kind of gives you that juice, it gives you the energy. And that's who he is, right? I mean, that's who he's been his whole career. He's kind of a mouthy. And I knew once the Bears signed him, he'd be a fan favorite. And that's exactly who he is. Fans love this. They want the feisty guy. They want the guy that talks a lot of trash. They want a guy that can back it up. And like you said, the Bears are winning now. So it kind of flips that narrative. If the Bears were 3-8, be like, get this guy out of here. What are you doing? That's a knucklehead move. Don't risk a penalty by getting in a guy's face. That could have been wrong. But no, you're 8-3. You're winning games. Yeah, you hit my guy. Get the hell out of here. Get back to your sideline. I love seeing that from CJ Gardner-Johnson.
Yeah, it's almost like a offensive lineman mentality of protecting your quarterback in a corner. I may have said this before, maybe to CJ Gardner-Johnson, maybe to somebody else, but it reminds me of The Town and the character, Jeremy Renner's character, Jem, where the Ben Affleck comes in and says, like, I need you to just come with me. I can't tell you what it is. I can't tell, it just kind of goes on. And it's like, it's risky, blah, blah, blah. And Jem goes, whose car are we taking? Right. He's just like, I'm riding with you. Right. Like I'm in, let's go, like knuckle up. I'm for you. That's exactly the type of guy you like to see. I mean, fans absolutely should love that because that mentality is good. Again, keep it under control. But otherwise, like, it's exactly what you want. And I love that you called it out because the moment it happened, I was like, yeah, of course he's there. Yeah. Like, I mean, he got into a
Who else would it be? Yeah.
He got into a jawing match with that kick returner the other week or that punt returner the other week. And I still don't understand why. Like, I still don't understand why that punt returner started jawing with him. He's just sitting on the bench, but it's like, I think that stuff just attracts a guy like that that just, drama just goes right to him. So, all right. I thought, we could just say the offensive line, again, continues to just build like a reputation. That was a good front. I know Highsmith didn't play, but like that is a good front. They played really well. Yes. Steelers won reps here and there. Yeah. Like they win games. That front wins games for them. That's how good they are. And so for the Bears to like win more than the Steelers, that really says how far this offensive line unit is coming. And so I just wanted to shout them out. I know we have Trent's tribute, but like this to me, like absolutely, like they're starting to get a reputation. And then sticky fingers, Nahshon Wright coming down with another interception. Who is this guy? Right. So the question is, to me, this guy's played himself into a contract. Now, is it going to be with Chicago? I don't know. They've already invested a lot in their secondary. They've got Jalen Johnson. They've got Kyler Gordon. The Tyreek Stevenson's still under contract, I think, right? He's not up yet. No. So, is he a candidate to, be extended by the Bears? Maybe, but he also might be a guy that goes and earns like a sizable contract somewhere else, which can help the Bears in terms of if they want to play the comp game too. But that's for the offseason. Don't need to get into too much contract talk, but the fact that we're talking about, does Nahshon Wright need to be extended or is he going to attract some big money in free agency? Good for him. He's lanky. He's interesting. Like he's scrappy, like he's making plays and it's just cool.
I love that you put him in the just right category.
Well, we expect it now.
At this point, we're expecting he's 5 picks. He's tied for the league lead with Kevin Byard, right? He's tied for the league lead. So it's like, man, we're expecting some stuff. Again, I saw a tweet earlier. I forget who sent it out there, but they showed Nahshon Wright's last few games, and he is playing at a pretty high level. And he is making himself some big money. He's going to make I don't think the Bears can afford him. Again, that's an offseason discussion, but just looking at the way the defense is constructed, he's playing himself into a nice deal, and that's good for him. It's a good story. Practice squad guy, busted his ass. Of course, he had the stuff last week with his mentor being shot. So it's like, man, this guy's having a season to remember, and I think it's just great for him.
Hat tip to L. Harris.
Yeah,
and Dennis Allen and this coaching staff once again. And if that's the kind of thing that you can replicate, right? Is this a one-off situation where you get this big year from Nahshon Wright and that's it? He was just a diamond in the rough and the Bears got a little lucky and, Ryan Poles brought him in and it was just kind of this one-off. Or is this something that this coaching staff does, right? Let's start to see, are they able to identify players in the draft and develop them? Are they able to identify guys in free agency, guys that are overlooked or maybe put in a bad situation somewhere else and bring them in and coach them up and see if they can make some plays? If you can do that, that is what winning programs do, right? That's, teams that are really good, they are able to get that hidden value and find players and put them into the right position to succeed. This is the best example that they got going. And a lot of fans wanted to run him. I mean, I don't know that I felt like I wanted to run him off, but he was getting burnt pretty regularly early on. And they obviously had to keep sticking with him because of the injuries.
Yeah.
But he has really come into his own. And if you keep making plays like this, some of that other stuff just gets forgiven.
Yeah.
So I think it's really cool. He's definitely he's the most interesting story of the year, from an individual player standpoint. And I just think it's really cool, and keep making plays, young man. Really, really excited.
You look at him play. You mentioned how he's built. He's really lanky. He can high point the ball. He said he had some receiver skills in his early year, and I've been impressed with how physical he's been. I wasn't expecting it. When you kind of saw him early on in the year, you didn't think he'd be that guy. But there's been several times where he has been the end man on the line of scrimmage, responsible for that contain, and you kind of see him come up and make a play. He makes a tackle. He's not afraid to get up there and take on a lead blocker. So you like seeing that out of him. And yeah, I mean, he's probably gone and can the staff now develop Terrell Smith, who's on IR, Zay Frazier, a rookie who's on, the PUP list, I think it is, whatever list it is, he's away from the team. So there's some young guys in the pipeline now you feel good about, especially if this coaching staff can coach them up and do it again. Let's keep this train moving, keep drafting, developing, and finding these guys, these diamonds in the rough, and turning them into players. And now you're playing the comp pick formula, right, as a franchise, because you got these guys you're kind of building up, and they're going on and having more success elsewhere, which is fine. You can't keep everybody, but that's what the good franchises do. If you want to be a good franchise, this is part of the formula to do that.
Dawn of a new day. Who knew? Look at us. Who knew?
Look at us. Yeah.
All right. Anything you want to talk about before we get out of here?
There we go. It's going to be a fun week. Everyone have a nice, safe, happy Thanksgiving. Black Friday, like I said, we got the merch. Use that promo code. Get some up. Treat yourself. And have a nice, enjoyable week for the Bears on Friday.
Yep, absolutely. Enjoy your family. You never know how many you got left. Don't want to be too sentimental, but we just lost a family member who was a Steelers fan. We talked a long time ago about going to this game, because they only go to Soldier Field once every 8 years. Schedule came out. I sent him a text. I said, hey, November 23rd, you still want to do this thing? And we lost him last Monday. So, you never know. Enjoy it. Enjoy your people. Enjoy your friends. Enjoy your family. Enjoy Bears football. Right. This is what we live for. So, yeah. And thanks to all of you. The time of thanks. We wouldn't do this if no one. We might just talk on the phone, but we wouldn't do this if no one listened or wanted to show up and share our passion for this football team, and working through another season. Thank you for making it more interesting, Ben Johnson and staff, because we needed a winner. So very exciting. We will stick around a little bit for the YouTube crowd, but for those that are listening, thank you so much. We'll see you next week. Bear down.
So when this offense starts to click, it'll be something we have never seen in Chicago before. Just trust the process, and Ben, we trust. Yeah, I mean, we're like you just said, we're very thankful that we have a fun team to cover again. Right? It's been a while since we've had any. We enjoy this. We enjoy talking. It's always fun, and we find a nice spin, a nice angle to kind of go at. But nothing beats talking about a winner. Nothing beats talking about a winner. This has been a good year so far.
Yeah, I mean, Ben is everything I thought he would be. And I don't do victory laps very often or anything like that, but like I was first in line. I was talking about him before anybody else for this team. and to the point where the Lions guys really disliked me. The Pride of Detroit guys, I mean, they like me because they bring me on, but like they're like, you gotta stop. Like it's not gonna happen. He's not gonna go to Chicago. You gotta stop. And but I saw what I want in a head football coach, right? I want a guy that hunts explosives. I want a guy that sees offensive football the way that I think it should be played in the modern era. And the Bears have not had that since the 1940s. That when they innovated with the T formation man in motion, that was like innovative offensive football, and it took the NFL to the next level, right? Like it's a whole thing that I am very passionate about, and I could talk about for a long time. But the Bears don't have another example of that. They might right now, because the whole league's running Shanahan or a variation of Shanahan. McVay's doing awesome stuff. I like McVay a lot. McVay's got that Shanahan tree background, but he's got his own flavor. Obviously, Kyle Shanahan is great and does his thing. So those NFC West teams are very interesting from an offensive football standpoint. And there's so many on this tree that are out there, are running some variation of this. And that's not Ben. Ben's doing something very different here, right? It's based on, Al Saunders and Mike Martz. And, there's all these different principles that he has melded into his philosophy. That's very different. And he's really attacking defenses in a different way. And so to me, this is probably the first time since the 1940s where we might be looking at the Bears leading the way in offensive innovation, which is insane.
Yeah.
Insane.
But for the record, I was not around in 1940. I was not there for that. I'm not that old. So no, but yeah, it's a fun time to be a Bears fan. We talk about it all the time. Enjoy this. This has not happened in none of our lifetimes. And it's just it's going to get better from here,
Absolutely.
Where's Chris's comment here? She had something similar to that. Feel like we're all ready for 2026. Caleb, I'm confident it'll click at some point yet this season. Yeah, I mean, it's the flashes are there. The highs are way more prevalent than the lows, right? So that's what we have to be excited about.
Yeah, I think I was telling you this, but I remember an interview with I think it was Aaron Rodgers years ago. But it was basically saying in the off season, you can really focus on like one thing and like take that like weakness into, taking that weakness away from your game, or taking that something that you'd like to do better and making it a strength, right? Like you can really make one aspect of your game, improve. And Caleb talked about how, hey, he didn't want to be a guy that was going to take 1 million sacks, be in the league for a few years and like be the league leader in sacks. And so he really, worked on this, how do I prevent these sacks? And look at that thing. Like that rate came down. He's doing really well with that. And he's really reduced the number of sacks. And obviously the offensive line better, schemes better, all that stuff. We've talked about that. But you do feel like he's going to get into this offseason and he's going to say, okay, what happened to my accuracy, right? Yeah. Like I'm playing under center more. I'm playing with these drops. Sometimes it's dead on. I saw somebody today say, I wish Caleb doesn't know how to layer a throw. You have not been watching Caleb Williams if you think that he can't layer a throw. He's been layering a lot of throws. All those, that middle of the field stuff, that's layering a lot of throws, right?
Did you see his passing chart from this last week?
Pretty much, it's great.
It's all in the middle of the field. Yeah. Those are mostly layered throws. Yeah.
Those are mostly layered. Like that guy's an idiot. But like, and again, I tend to just ignore stuff like that, but like, you don't know what you're looking for. But yes, he's got a fireball, right? And sometimes guys aren't able to handle it. And sometimes if it's really close, he needs to not throw the fireball. He needs to just, he needs to just touch, have a little more touch on that ball. Those are things I think that, he's got such amazing arm talent that those are things that I think will get there. And so that off season of like calibrating and refining, that to me makes me really excited. Like, oh yeah, he gets into 2026 and these little things that are left on the field. Now these 230-yard lines become 300, 320-yard lines with regularity. And, we're all kind of, interested to see if Caleb's going to break the single season franchise record for, the Kramer's record for passing yards. He's still on pace to do that. But I want to see, is he going to just break his own record next year, right? Like he break the record this year and then just break it again next year, right? Like how many of these can he stack up to where we don't have to see that stupid graph about 4,000-yard passers and the Bears anymore, because he's going to do it a bunch of times, right? So, and sometimes you don't even need it. You've got this guy that likes to run the football. You're not going to need to throw for 300 yards all the time, but having the ability to do the 300, 350 games when you need it, when you get into one of those, track meets, we haven't really seen that much. Doesn't have a 300-yard passing game this year. So you haven't seen that much this year. Let's see if he can unlock that here in the last 6 weeks.
Yeah, everyone says his rookie year was a wash, right? Like, oh, it was just a wasted year. I think he took a lot of value out of that season. Part of it is, like you said, he saw some problems in his game. He wanted to fix it. He's been sacked 17 times in 11 games, right? It's ridiculous how he took that and he just said, nope, I can't be this guy. I can't be, was it David Carr, 72 sacks? He can't be that guy that has the sack just define who he is. And, he was on his way to doing that because, 68, 69 sacks last year, just way too many. He cut that down. So I think he took a lot of value from that. Plus a lot of the late game situations last year, it didn't always work out. Something else happened where it didn't, they didn't get the win. But a lot of those times last year in late game situations, he was clutch. I think that kind of helped him and kind of mold him now. And we're now this year in year two, a little better team around him, better coaching staff, better decisions being made around him. And now we're seeing that five game winning drives here. So yeah, I think the rookie year, as much as we hated it, it had to happen to get this team where it is now. It had to happen to get Ben Johnson in Chicago where he is right now. So I'm good. I'm good with all that because now we got this going forward.
Went through a lot of pain. Get to this point.
Let's go one more before we get the hell out of here. Kasai 24, easing rookies in the game flow. Are we talking about player development here? What a revelation. Dennis Allen, Ben Johnson, coaching staff, Al Harris, Dan Rochar. I can go on and on. These guys, these position coaches, Declan Doyle, youngest OC in the league. I think these guys are all to the point where they all have the same vision. And Ben Johnson talked about day one coming in, how he had a standard to set. There's a bar now and everyone has to meet that. So if you're not on the same page, you're not going to be in Chicago very long, but he has everyone now moving in the same direction. And I love what's going on in Chicago with the coaching staff.
I think they did it beautifully, right? At no point were we worried about Colson Loveland. At no point were we worried about Luther Burden. Right?
Some fans were.
No, you and me, right?
No, good, yeah.
We were not.
We saw the vision,
and I think that is an important lesson to learn and take forward, right? And it's always that lesson has been out there for a long time, but a lot of coaches will push a player in, and they'll say, hey, let's throw you in the deep end, and whatever, let's see what happens. These guys had a plan for each of these guys, right? They had veterans in front of them. You got to earn it, right? You're not just going to just get thrown into the mix, especially if you miss time, miss camp, right? But they also bringing these guys along for what they're ready for so that they're able to have success and not go out there and get like, oh man, maybe I don't belong in this league, or, oh wow, and there's a method to what they're doing. And I don't know the last time that happened. It's really cool to see. I mean, I don't want to just be like, oh, this is the greatest coaching staff in the world. Like they're never going to do any wrong. We've tried to be honest. We've tried to call them out when, I think they should have went for the kill shot. They ran the ball a couple times there for nothing and then had like a 3rd and long. I would have liked to have seen some plays, at the end there to not give the ball back to Pittsburgh. I mean, the defense came through and it was fantastic. But there's been a couple times late in games where it's like, what are we doing, Ben? Like, go for it. Like, get this first down and this game's over. And I think he'll get there, but I want to see the aggression play out a little bit differently at times. There's the overall, the game management, the play clock has been great, except for a couple times that we've called out, right? Like, so even Ben Johnson, I think, is growing a little bit in the role. But I think the player development part has been really spot on and a real highlight.
Yeah. Did you see the timeout thing that Ben Johnson was asked about it? The Bears got called for delay a game late in the game. And of course, right away fans are mad. Why didn't Ben Johnson call that timeout? He said in the press conference, those timeouts are valuable to me. I'm not calling a timeout there. I call a play, run the play, get up there and get that play going. And to him at that point in the game, he didn't feel the 5 yards was that big a deal. It may have bit him in the ass, but he stuck to his gun and say, hey, that's why I do it. My guys know in that situation, I'm not calling timeout. So I like that he was very vocal there.
Second half timeouts, super important.
Yeah.
First half timeouts, pretty important.
Yeah.
Right. You see him burn him in the first half. Yeah, maybe that comes back to bite you, but in general, that's okay. End of the game, you want them.
Yeah.
They're very valuable. All right. Thanks everybody. Just real quick plug for the Chris loves the Screaming Bill coffee mug. And then your guy loves the Ron Swanson fist pump. So, you gotta make sure you give the people what they want. So yes. We'll get out of here. Thanks everybody. Bears are 8-3. Life is good.
Love it.